Welcome to Conscious Conversations. My name's Luke McLean. I host this podcast and we've done 10 episodes, so that's really cool. I'm pumped. I've had some good feedback. And I want to pause today. I want to pause, reflect and reset. So what we're going to do is just shift gears a little bit. And today's going to be a little bit about what we learn or what I learned from the 10 episodes, just to reflect a little bit on those. A little bit about me. I think, I've done 10 episodes. I'm going to give a little bit about my story. So you got a bit more context as to where I sit on the other side of the microphone and sort of what I'm about. I think that's a little bit more important. I didn't think about that so much when we started, but now it's becoming more relevant as I get more people and a bit more feedback. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to have a look at it going forward and sort of give you a bit of a view of who I'm looking to try and get on and the type of person that I want to get on. So, this is just going to be a 20, 25 minute hit. Just a little pause for you. I hope you like it. Let me know. Give me feedback if you're like, no, Luke, don't pause, don't reflect, don't reset. Just keep the guests coming. That's cool too. I'm okay with that. So this is a learning experience, just as everything in life's a learning experience. So we're going to roll with it and see how we go. So I hope you like it. Welcome to Pause, Reflect and Reset.
You've been waiting around long enough. The moment is here and you better stand up. It's time. You better stand up. It's time. You better stand up. It's time. You better stand up.
All right, so pause, reflect, reset. We're going to kick off a little bit. I'm going to give a little bit of a background about me and my story today. Just so you got some context of when I'm talking and when I come up with a thought or an idea, when I've got a guest on, you've got a bit of a framework or a bit of a foundation of potentially where that comes from for me. And it just allows you to, build a bit of a relationship to the podcast, I guess. So for myself, where to begin is, I live in the Otway Ranges, so I live really close to nature. And one thing I'm really fascinated with is around making decisions that shape us. We make decisions in our life, small decisions, but so often we make big decisions, and that decision impacts everything. It absolutely impacts and changes and shapes how we live, how we think, how we behave, based on what can be just one decision. So a good way to describe this is in 2012, I decided that I was going to do an Ironman triathlon. So I made that decision, in 2010, I made a decision to do an Ironman triathlon in 2012. So one decision. That was it. And from that decision shaped a lot of different decisions and thoughts and outcomes for me. One was that I went from getting up at 6 a.m. or 6:30 a.m. to getting up at 4:15 every day to train, because I needed that 2-hour block to get a run in or a ride in. Now that decision to get up 2 hours earlier still sits with me today, where I still get up at 4 a.m. without an alarm clock to get up early to work out. And why I do that is now because I value my wellness and my health and well-being, above everything. Even above my family, because my belief is that if I'm not at my best, if I'm not healthy, then how can I be a good dad? How can I be a good husband if I'm not well? So that belief, that's my belief. So this is my story. So everyone might be slightly different. And so how do I get a workout in? How do I stay, mentally fit? How do I meditate every day? How do I find the time? Because I've got 5 kids. I've got a lot happening during that day when everyone's awake. So for me, that 4 to 6:30, that 2.5 hours is my wellness time. So it's my time to meditate. It's my time to work out, because I value that. I've deeply value that in my life, and I always will. It's number one. So that decision from the Ironman has really set me up well beyond 2012. We sit now in 2018. So 6 years on, but from one decision, it shaped a lot of different outcomes for me. So I'm really grateful for that. So that's something it's really important to me, is the decisions that we make. So the decision for us to move to the Otways to get closer to nature was because we deeply valued nature. We deeply value as a family connecting to nature, being outdoors. So the feeling for us was that we couldn't do that in the city, we wouldn't be authentic to who we are. So we live in the Otways. I've got 5 beautiful children. Absolutely, I feel absolutely really grateful and blessed every day that they're healthy, they're active, they're great kids, and we get along. And I've got a beautiful wife, Charisse, who does an absolutely astounding job to look after those kids while I'm at work. Again, we made the decision that, for the past decade, that Charisse wouldn't work, that she would be home with the kids. Again, based on what we value, based on what we see as being really important to raising kids. And you make the choice, if you're going to have a lot of kids, you're going to make a choice potentially, unless you're really financial, that you're going to stay home with them and raise them, because, childcare and those types of things are hugely expensive if you're going to have 5 children. So that choice and that decision for us then shapes, a lot of how we live, and how we live very simply. So that's a little bit about where I live. The reality is I didn't start reading books or, doing anything around personal development until I was in my 30s. So that's, 8 years ago. At 30, I'd never read a book, apart from being in primary and a little bit of high school. I just wasn't a reader. And then again, a decision to pick up a book and read it around Buddhism, and that really shaped my view on mindfulness and my view on development and how we can live, but also on the discipline of reading and this constant journey now to continue to grow. So that was, for me, was a real changer to do that, to really go, how much can I learn? How much can I grow as a person, both intellectually? How much can I push myself, or how healthy can I live physically? This is a journey of how good could I show up as a person. And I'm still on that journey. I love that journey. I think it's a life journey that's well worth continuing for me, because I absolutely love it and value it. Now, that won't be for everyone, but this is, again, me and my story. So, now I'm not a psychologist, but I do read, and I've read, be close to 100 books around, personal development and psychology and Buddhism. And I've done courses that continue to grow me to get better at people, because I think that's the holy grail, is to how to make people better. And that's sort of when you talk about purpose, or when I talk about purpose and why you exist and why you get up in the morning, it's the want to grow people to become better. Now, that becomes the foundation for how you want to live. That becomes the foundation for why you want to, eat really well, so you've got better energy to show up better for people. Why you want to read, because the concept, and I remember, and I actually like him. I really like Tony Robbins. And some of the stuff I don't like, it's a bit of bravado and that sort of rah-rah. But one thing that really sat with me was one day he said, we grow to give. Like, we grow as people, right? With the sole purpose of growing, to give that to others. And that's the only reason we want to grow, is to give. And when you think about any animal, it's the ability to provide food for their cubs, or for their joeys, for instance. That's the purpose. And I don't think our purpose is any different. There's no point getting all this information. There's no point having all this money or this material wealth if it's not to give. And that's where I really sit. And that's why this podcast came about. It's the ability to try and get guests on, to try to talk to people that inspire me, that I think that are really, really wonderful and, invigorating, that I can give that to other people, that I can give a nugget of learning, I can give a practice, something that's going to improve that person's quality of life. Then that's a worthwhile use of my time while I'm on this planet. And that's me. That's at a really core and simplistic level. And then you chunk up your purpose, or you chunk up your goals of actually how you're going to deliver that, how you're going to do that, how you're going to shape that. One thing that I'm really working on is there's no point of reading all these books, or you've got all this information, if you can't apply it in a way that people can use it. So there's no point me reading books that are way up here that no one understands around, pathologizing and eco-psychology and myth, if no one's going to take it and use it. So, if you're up high and, this is a great learning if you're a leader, if you've got this vision that's amazing that you get but no one else gets, it's pretty useless. So the idea is for you to try to bring the person up, but you've got to come down and meet them halfway, and you've got to be able to hold that tension. And the good leaders and the people that are doing really well, in that space are the people that can hold that tension between having an amazing vision, but the tension to meet the people that can grab that vision and use it. So I like that concept of, I'll talk a lot about in my podcast around how we hold tensions, constantly holding the tensions and imagining that there's a tightrope or a wire around a tree, and you got two trees, and then the trees around might be values, or it might be like work and life, which I use a lot. And you got to hold the tension. If you have too much work and it's just all about work, the life tree will fall over, because you're pulling the tension too tight from the life tree. You're pulling it away, because it's just all work. It's 60 hours, 70 hours. You're not showing up for your wife. The relationship deteriorates. It's just a constant pull on the wire. If you're pulling the other way and it's all life and there's no career, that's fine, but you're not financially going to be able to support your family. There's no career progression. There's, instability in how you're going to live, and it's just all party. That career piece will fall over. So again, how we do this is we hold the tensions really well, and there's times where you'll tighten the work wire because you have to, but then there's times where there's a football game, or there's a holiday that you've got to be really present for, and you've got to tighten the life wire, and you've got to hold those tensions consistently. There's no balance. There's just the right management of the tension. So when one thing we talk a lot about, or I'll talk a lot about, it's not the balance. You're not trying to balance, because when we think about balance, we're going to get this constant feeling of imbalance. Just keep your balance, and then I hope I don't fall over. But the management of the tensions, management of work and life, how you get that to fit well right now, but that's going to change. We need to be agile. We need to be accepting that moments change, and if you have to stay 15 or 20 minutes past where you normally go home, then that's okay. But there's also okay that at times you might have to leave 15 or 20 minutes earlier. This is a flow of back and forwards, and it's never been more relevant than it is now in modern life, that we've got to be able to manage our tensions and hold them really well. Because if we don't hold them well, no one's holding them for us. It's not fixed anymore. So, that's something that I think is really nice to learn, and something that when I reflect on a relationship, or I reflect on something, it's okay, how am I holding this tension right now? How am I holding the tensions between Ziggy, my 4-year-old boy, and Cooper, my 10-year-old boy? At times there'll be Ziggy time, but I have to make sure that there's Cooper time as well, and I've got to hold those tensions well and bring them together and make sure they've got a relationship. Because one thing we look at, we've got 7 people in our house, so we've got seven people in our house, and there's a lot of different relationships that go on, and we have to allow them all the space to grow, and it's a really good learning that everything in life that we've got, whether it's development in our career, whether it's our well-being, everything needs space to grow. And I think Mark Bunn put it beautifully the other day, is the music is the space between the notes. And what that means is, without the space between the notes, right, there's no music. And without the space and the renewal in our life, there's no growth. It's just a blur of life, and it means nothing. The space is the life. Like and get good at the space, get good at renewal, get good at how you reflect. Okay, get good at those bits and build them into your life, because the rest of your life will make a lot more sense. But when it's just a constant flow of busyness and more, that's when it becomes a problem, and it's not beautiful music anymore. It's just a loud noise, and we hear the terms and the expressions that it feels noisy, or it's loud at the moment. It's because we haven't been able to put the space between the notes to actually hear the music. So, Mark brought that up beautifully. And Darren Fox, in our podcast, when I was talking to Darren Fox, he made a really good point around the fact that, if you're a leader, that busy isn't a performance state, because busy comes across that you're not spacious, so you're not approachable to your people. And that, whether you're a parent or a partner as well, if you're not approachable, then it's hard to build a relationship. If you're not approachable, you can't have the experience with them in the full moment. So that becomes really